Welcome, everyone. Welcome. We've got a few people still coming into the chat. Can't wait to see everyone. We've got people loading in here really quickly. So whilst we wait for people to join us, firstly, my name's Paul. Super excited about what we're here to go through today. We've had over 500 people register for this webinar. So clearly, switching to digital systems, in order to be more profitable, to be more efficient and even better, reduce all the stress that you've got in your business is a really hot topic right now. So we've got some experts, as you can see here on the screen, that are going to talk you through it, and we can't wait. But before we do, I just want to jump in a couple of little quick housekeepings. So the reason why we're sort of doing this today, doing this quick little session today, is really to give you a bit of a snippet, right? Give you that little taste of how to create and build systems for success. But really, to take this to the next level, we've actually got a live in-person event, a workshop coming up on Thursday, the 24th of August. Now, you'll see a little link to that will come up in the chat here very soon. So that event is at the Manly Pavilion in Manly, New South Wales. All right, so myself and Kurt, Julian, Daniel, Cornet, and Don, right, we'll be there for a full day to break down everything, right? Everything that we're going to give you snippets on today. Everything from estimating and construction management to bookkeeping and tax and marketing and health and safety. We're going to really break it down for you. So that link will come up in the chat very soon. So keep an eye on that one. Now, to dive in today, speaking about that chat box, like I said, we've got over 500 people registered for this event. So if you've got some questions, please put them in the chat box. We've got a few questions already which have come through, which we're going to touch on. But if you've got questions, chuck them in the chat box. We'll do everything we possibly can to go through and answer those questions for you as best as we can. All right. So now I want to touch on these good-looking people who are here on the panel. All right. These experts that we've got. Starting off, we've got Kurt. Right. Give us a wave, Kurt. Kurt's the founder of Buildxact, who's a leading expert on business coaching for builders. All right, so really excited to see what Kurt's got to offer here. And we've got Julian. Give us a wave, Julian. All right, he's the senior partner manager at Buildxact, right, which really is the best tool in the industry for estimating and construction management. All right, we've got Daniel. Daniel's the head of CFO advisory for Xact accounting, doing some great work for many years now with the building industry. All right, Cornet. Cornet's the founder of BizVideo. These guys do amazing work when it comes to really helping the building industry with storytelling. All right, so doing some really cool stuff there. All right, Don Doolan's here. All right, Don is an authority when it comes to creating paperless offices, and he's been doing it for a long time with many businesses. So, and we got myself. My name's Paul. As I said, I'm from HazardCo. We are the leading digital health and safety tool, digital system in the construction industry. So that's who we all are. That's what we're here to do. And can't wait to go through this with everyone today. So let's get into it. We've got a couple of questions to start off just to kick us off. So the initial question which we've got, this is out to all the panel here today. All right. So we're seeing more and more building companies switch to paperless processes, right? And the question comes in, can you tell me more about a company that has done this really well and really what it would mean for that owner and their business? So I reckon I might throw this one to Kurt to start us off.
Awesome. Thanks, mate. Yeah, absolutely. So there's plenty that I could talk about, but a couple that come to mind. There's a builder in Perth that we worked with. He was able to take his business from like significant amount of paper to completely paperless within 3 to 6 months. So the way he did that is he worked with a lot of our specialists, which is exactly why we're running that event next month, is to get you in touch with the right people to help you implement best practice paperless systems quickly and well for all areas of the business. But yeah, what I meant for him is it freed up a significant amount of time. Gave him more lifestyle choice, basically. But another great example is a Victorian builder I worked with. And this guy, his reasoning behind going paperless was to spend an entire season in the snow with his daughter at Mount Hotham. And he sent me some photos of them. He spent the entire season there. They're snowboarding every day. He didn't go back once. That was his objective when he started putting these paperless systems in place. And it was really heartwarming. As someone who's got 4 daughters, it was great to see him pull that off. And no doubt his daughter, when she's older, she'll realize exactly what he would have had to go through to make that happen. So just a couple of examples there, but there's plenty others. We've had a guy working from LA in the US, running his business in Australia, and then multiple examples of guys working across state borders as well. But just to put things in perspective, guys, 2015 was the first time that I realized the builder could run his business completely paperless, right? And it was off the back of that realization that we actually ran a one-day workshop about taking your business paperless. And that's the event that Perth builder attended. And then he, took advantage of the people in the room, the experts in the room, to then implement these paperless systems. I've actually got an interview at a later event where I interviewed Cam about exactly what how he put the systems in place and how he went paperless. And I also want to emphasize, it's not a one size fits all. It's not like there's no one panacea for everyone. Obviously, everyone's business is different and aspirations are different. So it's a case-by-case thing. But that interview is in the resource section of my book, $1 Million Builder. If any of you haven't got a copy of my book, I'm not trying to sell it. I'm happy to give you a free copy. You can just get hold of me through my website or info@builderscoach.com.au, and I will pay postage and handling, send you a copy. But most of our 7-figure club builders are paperless at the moment. And if they're not, if they do have paper, it's by choice. So in terms of what it gives you, obviously efficiency, speed, money likes speed. You get quick access to quality information, and it really allows you to make better decision-making, which is the hallmark of leadership. And it's quite sad that a lot of builders these days are running their business like it's the 80s or 90s. And if that's you, it's not necessarily your fault. You're probably just not aware that there's a better way of doing things and that you can access good people. I might just lastly just run through some of the areas where you go paperless for each area of the business, which is what we're going to be covering off in a lot more detail on this webinar as well, but also at the event next month. So your financial controls, accessing great reporting, individual job reports, doing costings, accurate costings, absolutely crucial. Identifying your most profitable work through accurate individual job reports and coding as well, job and cost coding. And then forecasting, very important with financials as well. Your marketing, lead tracking, being able to track where your most profitable work comes from, directing your marketing spend, social media, video stuff with the biz video guys, and then also integrating your online and offline marketing, really, really important. Sales, huge area, your CRM system. I'm just rapid firing through these guys because I know we don't have a lot of time, but there's capturing client interactions in a CRM, and then using things like, and this is what really struck me back in 2015, using things like DocuSign, and then being able to take payment on site with a prelim agreement on maybe a laptop or even just an iPad. Job delivery systems, obviously Buildxact is great with that, as well as the costings, but including purchase orders and strong client communication. Huge. That's a marketing thing, guys. Client communication during the job. Most guys neglect that. Work health and safety, using QR codes, and then an operations manual, just somewhere to house all of your documents and also training videos as well. So that's just some, not all, of the paperless systems that you can use to really run your business that are at an optimum level of efficiency.
Beautiful. Thanks, Kurt. Anyone else got a quick story that they've got around a builder they know that's been able to go paperless and how it's really helped their business?
Yeah, I had one guy, original guy way back when I first started looking at this, lived on the Hawkesbury River. The only way he builds on the river, everything goes by boat, and he used to get a boat ride of 45 minutes each way to his house every single day. And he used to have to go back 2 or 3 times because that's where the computer was. So he went into the cloud, went paperless with everything, and now he just can run everything from his boat on a job site.
Wow. So
it's a real big difference there. He could double the number of jobs he could handle just because he didn't have to do that trip 2 or 3 times a day.
Wow. That's phenomenal. That's phenomenal. So, and you can see there the link to Kurt's book, his free book is in the chat there. So feel free to jump on and grab that if you wish. So we might move on to the next question that we've got, and we can dig into this a bit more detail. So if a building company wants to get to this point around going paperless, where should they start? And I guess what's the first thing they should do?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing that you want to be doing is focus on the things that... Sorry,
you're right, Julian.
Sorry, Kev?
Go, Julian.
I was going to say that the thing that I would probably look at are the things that chew up the most time in your in your business. Often we find that the amount of time builders spend doing their admin work and estimating projects and actually just trying to run the projects through paper systems and Excel sheets and laptops all the time and taking them here, there, everywhere, just chews up so much time. The average single-story new build takes 15 to 25 hours to estimate, and that's assuming you actually win the work, whether that time's actually being put to use. I've spoken to another partner of mine who had a builder that quoted a job 50 hours it took him and didn't win the work. Now, for people outside of the building industry, like that, for me, I look at it and go, that's a whole week of my work that's just gone for nothing. So it's kind of just focusing on the key areas that chew up the most time, but then also, while also thinking about how that impacts your profitability. So when it comes to using a software like Buildxact, and if you use something else, but you really want to be avoiding spending huge amounts of time doing those kind of manual works that don't deliver, a return. So Buildxact gets you down to about 1 to 5 hours. So just focus on the key areas initially. Don't try and go straight in and try and do everything paperless all in one go, because you'll just be in sort of a minefield of trying to navigate how to work that. So take a step back, do something really basic. So for an example, if you're using Buildxact, don't go in and start putting nuts, bolts, and every single little item you need in an estimate at the start. Start putting things in a simple way, just so you can get your head around it. And then you might say, well, I'll do the main. So if it's framing, it might be like the main material obviously be your timber, and then you have your labor, and then you have some miscellaneous items kind of rolled up into one. So the important thing there is, don't dive in and try and do everything all in one go, because you'll just kind of get overwhelmed with the stuff you need to do. Make those slow incremental changes over time. So that's how you deal with things that are going to give you the time benefit back in your day. And then you need to really start focusing on what are the changes that you can make that drive profitability. So some little bits changes drive a bit of time saving here, there, and everywhere, but probably don't need to go all in. Just go on the areas that matter. And obviously Dan will come in on the profitability side, but one of the things that we see with builders is just the level of knowledge about where their projects are at and how profitable they are. That's not really up to speed. So Dan, I don't know if you just want to chime in there a little bit on the...
Yeah. Happy.
Because you're
happy to tag in there. Yeah, counting the beans. Yeah. Look, it's such a powerful piece that we're covering today as well. I mean, whether you sort of eliminate the paper, what you want to try and do is fold in technology, systems, processes, repeatability, then you get scalability out of your business. That's the formula to sort of stamp and press this and where you're going. And look, technology is getting more and more complex, but also creates a lot more relief over time as well. And look, if you're a business that doesn't have like Dex or HubDoc, or if you're still doing estimating on like a bit of paper or something like that, you'll be left behind. This whole profitless boom will come up at some point, and you need to figure out ways to make your business leaner and meaner. How do you get through it quicker? How do you systemize, build processes in so you can react to those leads that come in? Because it's all around, I guess, sort of client experience, client engagement. And if you're sort of spinning your wheels late at night, 7 o'clock at the table with bits of paper in front of you, it's a pretty dark and lonely place you're going down as well. So, I can't stress enough the importance of, trying to free yourself up, introducing technology. Because at the end of the day too, if you're opening up letters and mail and stuff like that, you're a bloody expensive admin person. Obviously, with all due respect to the admin people that are out there, but if you value your time and all the rest of it, geez, I'd rather you be out there hunting leads rather than spending an hour or two shuffling through paper and scanning and all the rest of it. So I know a lot of people on the call won't be in that, but if you are, you probably need to sort of shake that business model up pretty quickly, otherwise you will get left behind, without trying to create fear or anything like that. But yeah, you definitely need the shake. And then ultimately, at the end of the day, there's only X amount of hours in the day too. Some people do 40, 50, 70, 80 hours, depending on where you are with your business journey. You want to try and make sure that those hours that you invest in your business are impactful as well. And then, it is a good exercise to do too. Like if you sit back at the end of the day and go, right, well, where did my time go? How much of it was on non-valuating, low-value task activities, and go, well, how do I eliminate that? And then to Julian's point before as well, it's a process of evolution, not revolution. Small bites out of the way. How do I systemize this? How do I eliminate that? And a big piece of this today too, everyone that's on this call, you're already taking a step forward, trying to better yourself as well. And there'll be heaps of information that comes to you guys today. Take lots of notes. and yeah, definitely take a step forward and get control of the business and the paper whirlwind. You want to eliminate it.
I think that's a great.
Just a
Yeah, and
quick one.
I think
You go,
Sorry.
Kurt. Go for it, mate.
Just a quick one. Just following on from you were saying, Julian, yeah, quoting is a big inefficiency in the industry. Charge for quotes and then outsource to someone. That'll turn your business on its head in terms of freeing up time, and then invest that time in high value tasks as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's some really good points there, and the most important one that I get out of that is really just do a little bit at a time. You don't need to go and upheave your whole business, and change things. Just do a little bit at a time. And I know we see that from a health and safety perspective at HazardCo. It's like you can't go and try and do everything when it comes to health and safety because the legislation is so big. But if you get a system that you can turn a little bit of it and you can make it digital from a little bit, and then you can grow it and grow it, And a big thing is with health and safety, I know, is you have to get yourself right from a legislation perspective before you can actually get your subcontractors right. So start by yourself, and then you can work your subcontractors into that. So, Corné, did you have anything you wanted to add to that around where a good place to start is from going paperless?
Yeah, I mean, look, I guess a question you've got to ask yourself is, where does marketing come into this whole paperless thing, right? Marketing is like what Kurt said as well before. It's a system, right? And I think the biggest opportunity with this kind of thing, especially in the future, is leveraging technology and things like video to take you to that kind of that next level, where you don't have to do it one-on-one, just going out there and hunting the whole time, where it's more of a farming mentality. So yeah.
Beautiful. No worries. Well, look, we'll jump in the next question.
Paul,
sorry, Julian.
Just to add to that, Paul, if I can, if we've got a couple of minutes. One of the things that we see when we speak to builders, and I've seen it. I was at an event with Kurt and Corné a few months ago. What we tend to see is builders have no time because they're spending all their time on admin work, which means they have no time to actually take a step back and work in their business, which means it's very hard for them to implement the things that Kurt is suggesting, and then it's really hard to implement the things that deliver really good results, like really effective marketing, which Corné will speak about. So what ends up happening is people just stay in this rut, and they keep on going in this rut and never ever able to get out of it. And what happens is you win the same sort of clients, which are generally not hugely profitable clients. You end up going into a pricing battle with people, so you lower your price to a certain point that you're barely making any money. And then, 2 years ago, we had all these material price rises, and that just completely erodes the profit margin. So, adding efficiency in your business doesn't just give you more time in your day to just relax and not work really long hours. It actually enables you to focus on the areas that are going to drive better results. Now, that might actually be less clients. It might be winning less clients, more profitable clients. So it gives you time to focus on the things that a lot of the time builders don't have: an amazing social media strategy, amazing marketing strategy, sales processes, all those kind of things. And, hopefully this doesn't offend anyone, but, if you use an estimating software, the Victorian government used one, they might not have had a $4 billion blowout on the Commonwealth Games. So that's my, I'm going to try and get that injuries and try and get Buildxact in front of him for next time. So
yeah, it's hardly a rounding error, is it?
No, $4 billion.
Love it, absolutely. Look, before we jump into the next question, I'd love to throw just a little question out to our audience here today. And just off the back of what Julian was saying around no time, I'd love to hear if you can put in the chat box, what are the biggest problems you guys are seeing when it comes to trying to get your business paperless or trying to go to another level and get more efficient? So if you can, throw it in the chat box there, and we'll come back to them as we go through this. But we'd love to see what you've got there as we go through the rest of the questions we've got. Which leads me in, and I reckon this would be a great one for you to answer, Don. But the question comes in and says, what are some of the things that trip up businesses when they're looking to make the switch to paperless? So I'd love to hear what you've got to say there.
Yeah. So when we first come into a business, it's usually we start with the finance systems, because getting that paperless is usually the thing that's sort of brain fogging the builder. If their finances aren't clear and accurate, they just get sort of brain fogging, and that sort of they get stuck in worrying about that instead of worrying about the jobs. And as a finance person, we just want the builder out there making money. not working out how to spend it. So I guess the first area, and then Dan did allude to it a little bit earlier, we use a product called Xact. We call it our paperwork collection system. So paper can come in all forms. Like very rarely do we get handed any printed paper. It's more digital these days, but just getting it all into one spot so you can look at it all at once and you've got all of it. I guess that's the first problem, is actually collecting it all, even though a lot of it is digital. The second thing, that we see is the integration of the system. So we've got Julian here with Buildxact, and we use Xero is probably the main one we use these days, and Xact, and just integrating the three of them together and making sure that if you're going to do a little bit of data entry, hopefully only a little bit, that it actually gets published to all the other systems. So you're reducing the time of typing things over and over again. A lot of people, when we start, they got spreadsheets as well as Xero and as well as even a job management system, and they're typing things in everywhere. So it's very inefficient, and it's actually creates a lot of inaccuracies, and you never know where your numbers are at if you're doing that. I guess the funniest one of all is the director wants to see a spreadsheet of all the bills to be paid this week, and they want to see a copy of all the invoices. So the things that people do is they go and print all this stuff out. It's like, it's all in Xero. Why do you have to print it out? So if you're using all those systems and integrating them all properly, the efficiencies within the office goes through the roof, and then the business owner knows it's all taken care of, and then they go to Buildxact, they're getting their individual job reports and understanding their finances and their cash flow, and they can see what's going on. Then they can scale. So that's what we find. It's the first thing is to just attack those finance data collection systems and just make sure it all goes where it needs to go. So then smart business decisions can be made. That's probably the number one thing we see and get stuck into when we start with someone. Yeah.
It sounds like also there, Don, it's when you got the systems, you've actually got to use the systems the right way too. You know, it's no point having the system, like you said, getting Xero and then still printing stuff off, printing your paperwork off, right?
No, it's, you got the software, the technology's there, but the systems around the technology is what makes them work.
Yeah.
So if you're going to implement Buildxact, Xero, and Xact, for instance, as your technology stack, as we call it, you've got to make sure that you're using them the way you need to use them and making sure they're integrated together. And yeah, as a builder, you've probably never done that before. So get someone in to just help you get it cracking and just get on with it. So, and then just the freedom of mental space is just awesome when you're not worried about what bills and how profitable are your jobs. And you just know they are. You just know what's going on. You know your gross profit margin every minute of the day. What's the problem? So it's, yeah, it's
a really good point there, Don. And when you talk about getting the experts in to do this sort of stuff, I can talk at that from a health and safety perspective. Like the biggest challenge that we see when it comes to builders trying to do their own health and safety is they actually really don't know how to do it. And I don't mean that in a disrespectful way whatsoever, but the legislation is so detailed and in some ways can be rather grey, that why not get a system that's got everything laid out and planned out for you? So when you try and build it all yourself, what it does is it actually takes you away from trying to do what your job is, which is building properties. You know, so that's what we see from health and safety. Yeah, Don.
Yeah, and in your space there, what we find is people are trying to do what you guys do, but they just don't do it because they don't have time. It's just the paper way is just too hard.
Yeah.
It's like, it's just crazy. So they just avoid it. It's a bit like even doing if the business owner wants to do bookkeeping, they leave it until 3 months down the track because that's when the government wants something. So yeah, so technology just allows you to be immediate and then it makes you actually be a good business owner, like making sure your business is safe and everything's getting taken care of.
Yeah. Kurt, anything you wanted to add to that?
Oh man, this is day one stuff. Any builder that I work with, day one, we talk financials. I'll send them to Don and Blake. Don and Blake are the best in the country, in Australasia, in terms of bookkeeping for builders, eliminating complexity, improving accuracy, efficiency, and freeing up headspace, all in one hit. It's phenomenal. Yeah, it's massive.
Yeah. Dan, anything else that you see from your perspective that you've come across that's tripping businesses up from going paperless, or when they do try to switch to going paperless?
Yeah, there's a couple of facets in there, I guess. I guess probably the first one is a bit of a fear of the unknown as well. I mean, there's a couple of ways to go down this process. One is that you can sort of attend webinars like this and go down the DIY approach. But that's obviously fraught with a bit of error, I guess, risk as well. You haven't sort of done it before. You DIY, it can be clunky. You get frustrated, and you go back to the old way of doing it. I guess the big thing is, not trying to push anyone or services or anything like that. But, as you get bigger and more sophisticated, you probably need to pull in more professionals, like Don and Kurt and Buildxact, the guys from Biz Video as well, to go, well, how do we sort of leverage this business and get 1 + 1 = 3 or 4? I think that's probably the first one. And I think the other one as well is with the introduction of technology and tech, the tech stack that Don alluded to before too, is that we're getting so many of these tech pieces that are able to be intertwined with each other as well. So you might shove a bit of information into Dex and HubDoc, and then it goes through Buildxact and into Xero, and it spits out. So you handle the document once. So you have this beautiful software like Buildxact where you build out this quote that goes on forever and ever and ever and has all the data there. You can push data into Buildxact, comes across into Xero, integrates nicely. You can even go further upstream to HubDoc and Dex too. Julian, you might want to sort of touch on, I guess maybe some of that two-way sync that's coming up as well, because that's going to be pretty powerful actually, because there's quite a few estimating software items that sort of only push data one way, but this two-way piece would be pretty amazing depending whoever sort of enters or plugs data in and following that bouncing ball.
Yeah, so there's a two-way Xero integration is coming. I don't have a date on that when it's actually going to be released, because if anyone works with product, we know it's happening. We just don't know how long it's going to take to do. But look, if I was saying it's my gut feeling, it'd be here this year. But again, don't shoot the messenger on that. So that's going to happen. And obviously, that's going to enable you to take kind of like what Don's saying there, the efficiencies that bring into Xero, and then that will obviously push it straight into Buildxact. And obviously, we already have the one-way sync back to Xero MYB and QBO. And just while I'm there, down on the integration side, because Vanessa's put a comment there, but just in case anyone didn't know, HazardCo is now integrated to Buildxact, so you can push your documents and your swims and stuff directly into Buildxact. So if you are using HazardCo and you've got Buildxact as well, definitely have a check of that.
Beautiful. And there's a question there I noticed about what is Dext and HubDoc. Dan and I have both mentioned it a number of times. So Dext and HubDoc are both what are called optical character recognition tools. So you put a piece of paper in there and it reads the invoice for you and does 95% of my data entry. So that's why I love it. No data entry. It reads the piece of paper and collates it all in one spot. And it's a very easy place for a builder to review his costs if he wants to in one go for all projects, for all expenses. So it doesn't allow duplicate bills. So that subby that sends it in 10 times, it only goes in the system once. It just checks ABNs to make sure everyone's registered. So it's a whole heap of accuracy from a bookkeeping and an accounting point of view, and then reduces the amount of time it takes us by tenfold because we don't have to type anything.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and once you've got that information, Don, just to add in it, we're adding in more capability on the cost tracking profit side and reporting in Buildxact. So assuming your data in is good, you're going to be able to see in Buildxact, it's in the final stages now of testing, but the ability to see projected profit margin based on how you're currently operating, the future cash flow, all that kind of stuff as well. So it's going to really give builders way more information on the data front. And that's kind of what we said before, is that people, if you do it manual, you have all the best intentions. Like I'm sitting out here looking at my the front lawn that's got the bark on it, and there's weeds coming through. And I look at it every day and I think, one day I'm going to get that done, and I never get it done. And then I've got to do a giant cleanup of it. And that's what happens to people. People mean to do things. They've got all the best intentions to do things, and they just don't do them. And then before you know it, you've got a giant cleanup to do.
Yeah.
Beautiful. All right, we'll move through to the next question. And we've sort of touched on this, and there's been a number of comments in the chat, which is awesome. Thank you so much for that. The next question is a bit of a broad one, so could really go to anyone, but I reckon, Corne, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this to start with. And it's, what is the biggest challenge facing the industry at the moment? So I'm sure all of us have probably got our own sort of take on this, and we might do a bit of a round table on it. But same with you, Corne, what would you say to that one?
That's a good question. I mean, there's so many things, but I think the big one, like the big elephant in the room, is there's definitely a softening in terms of supply, right? And I mean, we talk to a lot of builders around the place, like every single day in all different mediums, workshops with Kurt. Last week, we did another one in Canberra. We interview builders on our podcast, and also obviously clients and stuff. And normally there's like two sides to it. So there are the builders that, you know, they got heaps of projects really easy with not much marketing. Okay. In the last few years anyway, there was this oversupply of projects, and really they didn't need to do much to actually win them. And then, but those are the guys that are now finding their pipelines a little bit more quiet. And then on the other side, I'm talking to builders, you know, they've got a really quality pipeline. They're booked up for even like 2024. They can't take on any new clients unless they grow the business. And those guys are the ones that have been like clearly focusing on their marketing and really, you know, building a trustworthy brand in their kind of like marketplace, right? And I think what it comes down to is, you know, a lot of builders, they don't know how to differentiate themselves from other builders. So then it comes back to price. And in this kind of like softening supply of new projects, that can get pretty tough because now the market is judging builders based on their price and really not much else. So I think that's why it's important to like really build a solid brand that is relatable to like your ideal clients, where you can also create that emotional connection. And like I said before, like how does marketing come into this whole paperless talk about like today? Well, it's about like the whole paperless thing is about how do you leverage technology, right? So that you can have more time to like, you know, deliver projects, work on the business, all that kind of stuff. So, you know, this is where you can really leverage technology and video. I mean, right here, we're leveraging technology. I don't know, I can't see the count how many people are listening to this right now, but we're leveraging this right now. So this is just a classic example. And I think it's important for builders to have a look at this. And I saw a question before about like what CRM, just in the chat, what CRM do you recommend to like track, monitor new clients' inquiries, but also automate communication? So I think that's a great point there. I mean, there's a lot of different CRMs, and we'll probably go into that in the event next month. But I think it's important to look at something like that. And the reason why is you want to build a database of prospective clients that you can nurture long-term, especially during times like this. You want to switch that hunting mentality to like farming. Kurt, you always talk about this. Yeah, I mean, the way you want to like farm is you've got to like plant seeds, you've got to nurture those seeds, you've got to give it good food, and then you harvest, you know? So really you've got to look at marketing as like a long-term kind of thing. Yeah.
There's a couple of comments here in the chat. I just love to throw out to the panel here. And one, and it's around this question around biggest problem. One is obviously clients aligning with the budget, or their budget aligning with their dream. And the other one is about actual profit, turning actual profits from, and again, realistic budgets, people having realistic budgets. So it's very similar sort of problems. So I'd love to throw that out to the panel as to, you know, how being paperless can help with that, and go to you, Kurt, probably first.
Yeah, well, funnily enough, I had those down. So biggest challenges I'm seeing, just again, like when I'm speaking to a lot of builders, is the lack of profit. So, you know, we spoke about that, or mentioned the profitless boom, and managing client expectations. That's a big one that's coming up. You know, the beer money, champagne taste. Obviously, we're living in a crazy market at the moment. Interest rates are high. The job market's strong. There's a strong real estate market all over the country, except Canberra. My philosophy is forget about the macro picture. It's not going to help to look at what's happening at a macro level. Create your own economy. And the way you do that is through marketing, which is why marketing is a holy grail. And what Corné was saying there, farming is really building a database, building your social media following, understanding your target market, having an avatar of that ideal client, and then delivering value, you know, sending out a consistent pulse of quality photo and video content, which is obviously something you can highly leverage and is something that you couldn't do in the 80s or 90s. So that farming, that building a list and a following ensures that you've got a consistent flow of quality inquiry coming through. You can convert that into projects, book yourself out, sail through any potential recession or downturn or tightening of the market. But it gives you sustainability, which is exactly why I always point to marketing as the holy grail, because that's the one area that can show you've got sustainability and with your profit and cash flow and ideal clients and jobs. So you can't escape it. Like every successful business on the planet has cracked the marketing code.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Like Kurt, I mean, I guess there's a few questions here or statements in the question box, like biggest problem, clients' budget aligning with their dream and budget versus dream, all that kind of stuff. Totally agree with that. I think, the builders that, the ones that only have like one inquiry that they're talking to, they find it tough because now, the people's dream is massive and then really their budget isn't. So how do you align that? But flip that to, hey, I'm talking to 10 people or 20 people at any one point in time. That changes things a little bit. So again,
application based.
And creating,
work with you. Yeah,
that's it. And creating, like, I agree, like the macro, like create your own economy, supply and demand. Like as a building business, most builders here on this call, like how many projects can you really do per year? So don't look at the media too much. Look around like, cool, can I do 2 projects a year, 4 projects a year, 20 projects a year or whatever? And then overbook the plane, like what Kurt normally says.
But most guys call no. So there's people on this call are watching the recording and they're going, yeah, this is great, but I can't get to it. I can't get to cleaning the leaves in my front garden. How the hell am I going to set up best practice marketing systems, right? So the way to do that, guys, is accessing the right people. You've got to access the right people. There's a great book called Who Not How, which is the #1 book all about 7-figure club builders point to. Those are guys netting $1 million. It's written by Dan Sullivan. I'd highly recommend you have a look at that. That'll set you free big time.
Can I chime in there as well, Paul? So can I just want to give the book name again there? Just give the book name there again.
Yeah, sorry, guys. Who, Not How, and Dan Sullivan. We can throw it in the show notes or shoot it out to people afterwards, put it under the recording. Yeah. Everyone on the live call will get the recording as well, hey?
Yep, absolutely. Go, Julian.
Well, first thing, obviously, get a gardener for the weeds. That's what
definitely, gardener required. And don't wash your own car. You shouldn't be mowing your lawn or washing your car, or even. I've got someone cooking meals for me now. There's things you can do at a personal level that really free you up, even if it's just your thinking.
Yeah, but I was going to say on the budget side, what we tend to find is that people that have these initial issues of budget versus dreams, it tends to be when they've invested a lot of time with the client, and then they get caught on this thing of the client actually thought it was going to be $300,000 cheaper than it actually is, and what that kind of lends to is you're investing way too much time putting manual work in with the client before you even know what their budget is. So as Kurt sort of mentioned before and Cornet, is like building that pipeline of actual clients that have the budget to spend what you're trying to do. But also when you get to that point of actually having that conversation, don't spend 15, 20 hours building an estimate for them. Kurt said, obviously charge for it, but, get a really quick prelim quote out to them. And I know Hayden's on this call from Pricer Plan. We work with a bunch of estimators that use Buildxact. I know Hayden's got a few plan options that he has. And I think one of them is like just a really, really simple quote just to get, an estimate just to get a budget cost. And, it might be plus or minus, I don't know, 50, 60 grand or whatever, but at least you're in the ballpark of where you're starting off before you start going in and investing all that time. And I think some people get a client and then they, I've got to do everything I can to win this client, and they start doing everything and they start creating a quote and an estimate and whatnot. And before you know it, you get to this point where you're this far apart and it's just never gonna happen. So that'd be my advice is, try and get things really, I just saw Ken's comment there about gardens. Just to try and get those things done to save yourself time and, not wasting time on tire kickers.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Sorry guys, just the client expectation thing. I think it's been perpetuated by the fact that we've in a topsy-turvy world where we've got high interest rates and also high inflation as well at the same time. Like you don't normally see that, and it's probably because of all the money printing and the pandemic and everything else. So things are a bit topsy-turvy. So it's important to address it head on.
Lovely. All right. Well, now let's give a few more tips, I reckon. So, and I want to start off with easy wins. So I'm going to go around the panel here. And whilst I do this, if you've got any more questions for anyone here, chuck them in the chat. All right. Any questions, and we'll get to them and we'll answer as many of them as we can. But I just want to start with easy wins. And I'll start from my perspective from a health and safety show there. So what we find with health and safety is It doesn't get done because most people either don't know how or really don't want to do it because it takes too long to do it, right? And you've got a folder this big which either sits on site or someone in the office has got to put together this folder with a site-specific safety plan and all your swims and all your other health and safety documents, and no one ever looks at it. So it seems like it's just wasted time, all right? The first thing I would say when it comes to getting an easy win when it comes to health and safety is just make sure that you've got a digital system where you can get a site-specific safety plan done in seconds. You can allow people to induct in on your job sites without you having to be there and hold their hand. So you need some sort of digital system for them to induct themselves into your job sites, right? And then a digital system which is active safety management, which is all the swims provided from their phone, right? They should be able to do swims from their phone on a job site. Otherwise, you're never going to get them. And then it's like having car insurance. You don't need it until you need it, right? You don't need it until you crash your car. Swims and health and safety is exactly the same, all right? So you need to get a digital system around that. And yes, that's what we do at HazardCo. But absolutely having that integrated into other platforms is the easiest and quick win when it comes to health and safety. So, Dan, what would you say your easy quick win is that you could say in terms of going paperless?
Yeah, I think especially in the day-to-day grind. I mean, Julian, you sort of alluded to it before, but I sort of do that differentiation between working in the business and on the business, which Kurt, you're probably a big liver and breather of that as well. I think the initial piece. I mean, the building environment is so complex. I've worked across a few different industries, but building a house, there's a lot of moving parts, people, calls. You probably go through day-to-day playing a bit defensively as well. People calling you for this and calling you for that. I think it's probably worthwhile just quantifying your day and going, well, hey, where did my chunks of time go? What was a low-value task I was doing? And then how do I eliminate it? It's pretty amazing if you do sort of keep like a bit of a diary for a couple of days or a week or something like that and go, where has the time gone? And then going, well, where's the biggest chunk? Where is the least value being driven from? And then almost work backwards from that. Because everyone's going to have their own little nuances, their own little different ways of doing it. Some will be really, really far down this path as far as integrating technology into the business, but some will just be starting out. I'm sure there's one or two floating around in the background that still do the shoebox of receipts, which is crazy, I guess, in today's world. And Don, I'm sure you still get it, mate, but you sort of hammer that out of them pretty quick. I think it's just.
Oh, Dan, what I do there is I actually ask them to come to the office with their shoebox. I put Dext on their phone and I tell them to sit there and take the phone.
Outsource it.
Because you're not going to pay me my hourly rate. Just sit there and take photos.
Yeah, exactly. So I think the easy win is just reflecting what you do sort of day to day, and then go, right, well, how do I fold in a system or a process to eliminate this manual piece? And again, there's some great tech out there: HubDoc, Dext, Buildxact for quoting. So I mean, it depends on where I guess that whole business chain. Upstream is sales, marketing, and then you sort of come into the estimation and the dust settles and it spits out a number and zero. I think you just need to identify where the most manual process is and then go, well, how do I eliminate that or replace it with tech or a process?
Beautiful. Thanks, Dan. What about you, Dom? What would you say is your easy, quick wins that you could give our viewers today?
Okay, probably they're an integrated quick win. If you're the builder and you're doing your accounts, who, not how, okay, stop doing it because your focus is building, not focus on keeping track of the numbers. You want to know what the numbers are, but whether you outsource it to us or employ someone or whatever, it doesn't matter. Just stop doing it yourself. And the biggest win behind that is I'm just a lover of Dext, right? Knowing you've got all the paperwork, especially if you're doing cost plus work, imagine that. We can put everything into Dext and print a materials report for a cost plus project in one push of a button. It's how you collect the paper that matters. If you collect it properly, you can do anything from there really, really easily, which I think's been mentioned earlier. So stop doing the bookkeeping yourself if you're the builder and implement Dext immediately.
Beautiful. Well, now that's Don Dext Doolan is what his new nickname is. So thanks.
Let's go with that.
What about you, Julian? What's your easy, quick win?
Yeah, well, it's just focusing on the big time chewing up parts. So from our side, it's always stop doing the manual estimating. Whether you outsource that completely for someone to do, or you outsource it via Buildxact and that person can send it back in via the software, but just start doing things online. Now, look, ideally we'd like you to use Buildxact, but use something, just get off Excel, Don't rely on your business running on an Excel system to manage your estimating in your business.
Beautiful. Corne, what about you?
Yeah, that's a tough one. There's so many different things you can do. But yeah, I agree 100% with what Kurt said before. Read the book, The Who, Not the How, because I've seen a few comments here, people saying like, well, what if I'm a small builder? How do I market my business? Or, and every other aspect of the business. Well, look, I mean, the first thing is like looking at who is an expert with that already. You guys are expert builders. People come to you because you're an expert. And the same goes for the people that need to help you. Now, again, like for those builders that, you've got a bit of a pipeline and you can invest your time and money to create like a marketing system, definitely have a look at that, get the right thing in place for that. If your pipeline is looking like it's not as full, then, start looking at like some really kind of like interesting ways to like fill it up, right? So, like one example is we just did a podcast with a buyer's agent yesterday, right? And it's focused towards builders. So like give an insight from a buyer's agent's point of view. A buyer's agent would buy someone's property and then chances are they need to like renovate or whatever, right? So that's a great, like have a look at like who else can pass work to you. And I might just link our podcast in the chat, but there's a few of those kind of podcasts coming up where it might give you ideas on how to do that. I just noticed the comment before about, as a small business, how do I market? So yeah, that's probably my key takeaway.
Lovely. And Kurt, what would you say is and you've probably got 1,000 of them, but what would you say your easiest quick win is right here, right now?
Yeah, no, obviously I could talk for a week on this, but I'll give you the seriously in the specific sequence, right? For everyone listening, this is really important, right? So we've spoken about time management being an issue. So the number one thing you can do to free up time, which is crucial because once you've freed up time, you can work on other areas of the business. You can go and find the right people. So charging for quotes. If you're not charging for quotes, you need to be doing it. It's easy. I don't care where you are. I've worked with guys in Kalgoorlie, every state in Australia, New Zealand. It's in my book, the process. You don't need to learn how to sell. Just follow the process. And people will pay you for a quote and thank you for the privilege. Then outsource the quoting to someone like Hayden from Price to Plan. Again, that's game changer. All right. I don't have to tell you, there'll be a business before you do that and afterwards. So we've done that with hundreds and hundreds of builders. So that's the first thing you do. That then frees up time. Second thing you do is get in touch with Don and Blake or someone like them. They're the best, like I said, to get your job codes and cost codes accurate. So you got accurate financial reporting. That'll help you find the margin in your business. You want to chase the margin, then the revenue. And I don't know how many of you guys have your job codes, your cost codes aligned. Like in your costing, when you're using something like Buildxact to do the costings, do those cost codes align with your bookkeeping codes that Don's talking about, and then your purchase orders as well. Okay. If not, and you have no chance of figuring it out, don't worry about it. Find someone who can do it for you and can do it quickly and well. And then, just ask yourself, what's the biggest challenge in your business? If you don't have enough inquiry, it's a marketing problem. Go and access the right person. Once you've done step 1 and 2, freed up time by charging for quotes and outsourcing, and then getting your financials accurate and you know where the margin is, look at your next biggest challenge and then access the right people with that who, not how process.
Beautiful. Some good stuff there. Really good. Now, a couple of posts I've seen, a couple in the chat here and I've actually had this a lot. We sort of get this a lot through what we do at HazardCo. But question I want to throw out to the panel here is, I'm a builder. I'm not really tech savvy. How can I actually do this? How can I go paperless? How can I build systems into my business, which are digital systems, when I'm not really tech savvy? So who would like to start us off on that? How about you, Dan? What would you say to that?
Look, I think the low hanging fruit, without being too shameless about this, is pick up the phone and ask any one of us, flick us an email. I mean, part of this piece is just getting out there and doing a little bit of networking. Where do I start? I mean, you can do the DIY piece as well. I mean, commonly just Google online and just sort of see where that bouncing ball takes you to. But yeah, look, I mean, first and foremost, if you're on this chat here today, I mean, any one of us love to talk and breathe this stuff. I mean, I'll probably just reach out to any one of us and just have a chat initially. Because I mean, if you're trying to DIY yourself, I mean, because there's a fair bit of industry experience on the call as well. I'll probably just say start there, to be honest.
Yeah, it's a good point. I think it's actually using people who are experts in those areas is a really good starting point. You know, as soon as you get away from what your core business is and what your core skill set is, that's where the challenge happens. You know, so follow Kurt and go and get your dinners made by someone else, and you can focus on doing other things. I think that's a really good point with that. Anyone else want to add to that? On if I'm not really tech savvy, how do I make my business tech savvy?
Yeah, I think Paul, like I hear people all the time say that when I'm at events and stuff, and I'm sure you do from a HazardCo perspective as well. But often that's with the mentality of how software used to be. Like software used to be in building instruction. Really, you spent $6,000-7,000 to buy the software, and then you needed someone to come and do 2 weeks of implementation, and you spent another 10 grand for that. And then when they left, you just spent 2 weeks trying to learn this system, and you're like, I don't know what this button does, I don't know how this works, and so a lot of people have that kind of mentality of I'm not tech savvy, and I hear it all the time. But we have people that use Buildxact and are up and running, of just off using the videos, and people that you wouldn't class as tech savvy. And generally, we have older people using Buildxact who have, not very great with software and things like that, but they all pick it up very easily because the software nowadays isn't that hard to use. And if you start basic and start slowly building your way up, then it's much, much easier. So it's not necessarily that you completely have to get everyone to do everything for you when it comes to software, because people are using software perfectly fine. So just invest that time and learn little bits by little and just make slow incremental improvements. So it's not necessarily running away from doing it yourself. It's just taking it slow.
Yeah, it's a good point there. I mean, obviously, Julian and I both come from, tech businesses and what our products are. And we talk about a lot. If you can use Uber Eats, if you can get Uber Eats on your phone, there's a fair chance you can use our systems. Like we know our markets, and we know that no one really wants to be sitting there on a software all day. That's not why you become a builder, right? So we know that the systems and the platforms are really easy to use. I just want to add to that. There's a question come through from Patrick. How do I encourage my not tech savvy staff to fully utilize the software we have implemented? And Don, you're smiling. I reckon you'd be a great one to answer this one.
Yeah, I don't know. This is probably an answer on Kurt's behalf. Leadership. It's if your business is engaged going into the future using technology, which it kind of has to be, then you need to lead the business in a way and somehow encourage the staff to get involved. And we've seen it plenty of times where no one will do time recording and push the stop clock or do whatever, but they do it. If the business needs it done, they get engaged and do it. And probably the ones that don't engage, maybe there's other things that they won't engage with as well. So it's more of a business decision there if you've got people that are a little bit. All you can do is lead them in the right direction and lead the horse to the water. And if the horse doesn't drink the water, well, there's probably a few other things to think about there. Then
I think you've nailed it, Don. I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, I mean, even with sort of like large tech rollouts and stuff that even I've been engaged in, I mean, the hardest bit isn't learning the tech. The hardest bit's behavior. And ultimately, I guess you as a leader or director or I guess owner of the business, I mean, you have to lead from the front. I mean, you can't get away with, do as I say, not as I do. Like it has to start that leadership piece. Guys, I'm doing it. This say do it. Visual leadership, lead from the front. I mean, because the tech side is getting easier and easier, Julian, as you alluded to before. I mean, the big chunk of it's behavior, and it's being on it all the time. Guys, are you using it? Are you using it? Why are you using it? I'm going to check in with you tomorrow. Where's it up to? And it's just shaping that behavioral piece. That's probably the biggest challenge.
If I can add to that, it's not just your staff either. It's your subcontractors. Like it's got to be the same with them. You've got to lead them also. In particular, I mean, I say this from a health and safety perspective. Like they play a huge role in making sure that your sites are safe. Yes, it's your job as the principal contractor to make sure that you've got all the tools and the education. And the communication around the different hazards and risks which are on site, but ultimately you've got to lead them to do the right things on your job site and follow your processes and follow your systems. So absolutely comes down to leadership for both employees and subbies. Kurt, Corné, did you want to add anything to that one?
Just quickly, your business will never outgrow your leadership. So it's really important to work on yourself, your personal development and leadership development. That's part and parcel of business success. So, people on the call or listening to the recording, you're obviously in that camp. which is great. But keep developing yourself.
Corner, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm actually just excited about the event for next month where we can dive a lot deeper into this. I think mindset is, like every builder that I get to deal with, mindset, the topic of mindset always comes up. And what Kurt just kind of like said, we all have our own ceiling in terms of mindset and how we can grow. So I think, it's like just being part of calls like this, to attend these kind of things, to like open your kind of like sphere of knowledge when it comes to this. I mean, it's only like a system or a process or a technology away from, like, again, going back to that leverage, just one thing away. Yeah.
We saw it on Friday. We're in Canberra, as Corne said, on Friday, running an event there for one of the associations. There was a young guy in the room who was at our event a year ago in Canberra, and he was a different person. And it was because he had worked on himself mentally. He got himself a mindset coach beyond just myself and working with Biz Video. He accessed everyone, Don, myself. He said it. We interviewed him. And he was literally a different person 12 months later.
Wow.
Yeah, that interview will be on our podcast pretty soon. But night and day, I couldn't, when I caught up with him, like on that day, I'm like, is this the same person?
Just confidence, massive confidence. Yeah, that's awesome.
Well, there's been another question here. What's the event from Scott? So I might just round this out here. And firstly, I want to say congratulations to everyone that's registered and come on here live or is actually watching the recording here of this. You are the people that are making the industry get better. And as Janine just said there, power of knowledge, that's what this is. So you are the people that are going to continue to make this industry get better and better and better and get over these challenges and become such a great industry or improve on the industry that it already is. So the event, there's been heaps of questions. What's the event? So Kurt, give us a bit more of a rundown on the event and what's we're going to go into more detail, break this down, this whole workshop, this full day where we're going to deep dive in this stuff.
All right, fasten your seatbelts. Okay, here we go. I'll tell you who this event's for, who it's not for. So if you are business-minded, right, you want to take your business to the next level, and something I hear a lot, maybe you're sick and tired of the last year being the same as the year before and the year before and the year before that. And you've got to the point where you want to make a change. You've had enough. Okay. You've drawn a line in the sand. Then you absolutely need to come to this event. Okay. You're going to have access to us, but it's not just going to be an event where you guys sit there and listen to us presenting from the room and here's what you should do and here's what you shouldn't do. We're going to be working a plan. All right, 3 questions for you. Be honest with yourself. If you're listening to this live or a recording, do you have a business plan? Is your plan aligned with your vision? And are you working your plan every week, every month? I asked that question on Friday in Canberra. No yeses. We asked it in Auckland, Melbourne, Sydney. Very few people answer yes, including Fortune 500 companies. All right, so you will have a plan when you leave at the end of the day. On the 24th of August. We're going to get you working a plan that is relevant to you and your business, and then also accessing the right people who can help you quickly and perfectly implement the systems that you need for your business right now based on the trajectory that you're heading towards or you want to head on. So it's accessing the right people that can help implement, but also very importantly, networking with like-minded, non-competing builders who you can compare notes to. If you want to see what 7-figure club builders are doing, so these are guys netting $1 million after all expenses, including wages to themselves, but before tax, and then what their plans are with that money to maybe do non-client work or set up a development arm for their business, then you want to be in the room, man. But if you're not interested in growing and expanding yourself as a leader and your business, then obviously it's not going to be for you. But if you are, like I said before, you absolutely want to be there. Make sure you do it. It'll be life-changing. And I don't say that lightly, guys.
Beautiful. So the link is in the chat. If you want to put that link in the chat again there. Again, 24th of August, right? It's in Manly. This is the first one that we're doing, and this is where we're going to do it. It's in Manly, so you need to get there, okay? We may not do it again.
Great venue.
Sorry?
Great venue, by the way. Beautiful venue. Beautiful part of the world.
Very good.
You'll love it, guys.
Awesome. It's a full day, so the link's in the chat there. Manly in Sydney, Stuart, not Manly in Brisbane. They're both beautiful places, but I think Kurt would still rather than Manly in Sydney. So great spot. It's going to be a great day. Plenty we're going to get through. So really what I would love to do is firstly thank all of the panel members here today, Dan, Kurt, Julian, Don, Corne. Thanks for all your insight. You guys are doing some amazing things in the industry at the moment, and you're really helping a lot of builders go to the next level and not only have better businesses, but have better personal lives because of it. So well done to all of you. Thanks for everyone else for turning up. There may be future events planned, not sure. We just want to make sure that we put all of our effort into this one in Sydney to really make sure everyone gets a huge amount of value from it and can go away and change their business and change their life. So thanks, everyone, for coming, and we'll see you at the event.
Looking forward to it. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, great show.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Cheers, guys. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.